For better and for worse, Arcane Studios has the ability to create critically praised games that rarely reach the same level of financial success as many believe they should. Case in point, the Dishonored franchise. Arcane, instead of giving into the easy road and creating something that goes against their method of inspired gameplay, they've continued in crafting games that are rather genre-bending, including its latest digital experience. Playing as a man with amnesia in a world where everyone is trying to kill him, Deathloop looks to turn the first-person shooting experience on its head, featuring RPG elements, a plethora of powers and weapons, memorable characters, a story where time management is necessary, and a multiplayer mode where the protagonist must die. Having not been a big fan of the Dishonored games, I started Deathloop tepidly with the hope that it would grab me a lot better than its predecessors. The goal of protagonist Colt Vaughn, or antagonist depending on what mode is being played, is rather simple. Break the time loop that causes him and everyone else on the island of Black Reef to repeat the same day over and over again. To go about breaking the loop, the player must discover how to kill all of the 7 visionaries before being able to confront Colt's fellow cover star Juliana Blake, so he can finish her off once and for all. The game does a good job of helping the player find paths to understanding both how to move Colt towards his goals of success, and what needs to be done to get some impressive loot. While Deathloop's main story presentation is pretty straightforward in regards to mission objectives, there are a great many secrets in Black Reef that the player must really work hard to figure out, or look on the internet for answers, like finding a code that unlocks a potential visionary rendezvous point by observing 4 unique pictures associated with cassette tapes. The trophy list is just as obnoxious in regards to pushing players to their limits. Rather easy and interesting trophies like turning a wolf mask wearing visionary into ground beef during his comedy routine are offset by complicated setups for rewards, such as completing the long-winded minigames known as a Charlie Montague game. There are also some luck-based trophies that will see players having to take out every version of the Professor Wingy Visionary on a map in less than 90 seconds, and executing 3 visionaries during a dinner party before escaping without being spotted by an enemy, including the Huntress Juliana. After nearly 25 hours, I overcame all the challenges Deathloop had to offer, witnessed both endings, and even got some Colt kills as Juliana in the multiplayer mode to earn my 80th Platinum Trophy. Colt's journey to break the time loop affecting Black Reef is one of great mystery and power, with the latter being connected to Vaughn's inventory. As per the norm with a first-person shooter, Colt can garner an array of weaponry, pistols, shotguns, rifles, and even a nail gun that works perfectly for stealth takedowns. These guns, not surprisingly, all feel and react differently when using them in the heat of battle, with the PlayStation 5's controller playing a big role in the weapon's presentation. The DualSense controller's haptic feedback triggers allows for moments like charging up the aforementioned nail gun by slightly pressing on the pressurized right trigger before pushing it down completely to fire off what could be a one-hit kill headshot. With pistols, the player can dual wield and alternate from left to right trigger while blasting away enemies. The triggers will also lock when a gun rarely jams, something that is an issue with the lower level guns and not the more rare weaponry. There is a rarity system when it comes to the weapons obtained, with the better guns sporting better perks, like damage boosting for successfully landed shots in succession, and a cloud of poisonous smoke being emitted following every bullet shot. The game's trinket system greatly complements Colt's personal loadout before a mission. Trinkets are obtained through a variety of ways, such as killing nameless, though highly dangerous enemies known as Eternalists, found by completing certain puzzles and side missions, and simply discovering trinkets when searching through a map. Each weapon can hold 3 trinkets at a time, without the ability to stack trinkets like having a pistol with 2 Hellfire trinkets for quicker firing speed. The limitation of stacking doesn't hinder trinkets' effectiveness in making weapons even deadlier, including making struck enemies slow down to the point of staggering, or bullets becoming more powerful when shot from greater distances. Trinkets also play into Colt's personal upgrades. With 4 slots, the player can add character trinkets that benefit Vaughn's natural and supernatural abilities, like boosting his health or double jumping. But nothing is more impressive in Colt's repertoire than slabs. Slabs are special abilities afforded to Colt when he either defeats a Visionary or Juliana when the latter goes on the hunt. The variety of slabs isn't impressive in number, but definitely in presentation, like the Ether Slab that temporarily turns Colt invisible. Shift will see Colt teleport in short distances, while Nexus clouds an enemy when struck that makes said enemy even more susceptible to damage. Repeatedly overcoming Visionaries and Juliana will reward players with slab upgrades that better said abilities. For example, with an Influencer upgrade, the Nexus Slab's natural effect will connect nearby enemies to one another that, when shot, will all suffer damage. The only non-upgradable slab, Reprise, is Colt's ability to respawn twice before dying, giving the player a chance to learn from their mistakes or not get too upset when an enemy snipes Colt from out of nowhere. Changing slabs and their upgrades becomes an imperative, yet enjoyable part of setting Colt up for another day of fighting. Also in Colt's arsenal is a machete perfect for cutting down enemies with stealth takedowns, or a hasty decapitation when his gun runs out of ammo and the player is surrounded. The game's stealth system really shines when the player is mixing, say, the Ether Slab, sporting Ghost and Erase upgrades, with a creeping death character trinket that makes Vaughn practically silent when crouch walking and attacking, though doing stealth the old-fashioned way of simply walking through a map and observing enemy patterns before going in for the kills works just as well. Colt is given 4 grenades at a time at the start of every map that may be thrown or set up as mines, with the latter being able to be picked up if the player sees fit. Colt's most impressive tool is his Hack-a-Majig, a remote that allows Vaughn to turn turrets in his favor, shut down security sensors, and create sound distractions by turning on radios and alarms. Hacking a turret and placing it at an entry point while moving through a nearby mansion works exceptionally well in stopping potential alerted enemies, adding another layer of stealth. Though the game's setting resets after a day of work, it doesn't feature an actual clock, just 4 time frames: morning, noon, afternoon, and evening. After a couple of hours and early mission completion, the player is given the chance to spend Residuum, collected from shiny objects randomly scattered throughout every map, killed Visionaries, and even from Colt when he's forced to respawn. Spent Residuum infuses items to Colt permanently, including his weapons, slabs, and trinkets. Players can also sacrifice said items for Residuum to infuse other items, or just let the loop take them. The amount of duplicate trinkets and slab upgrades the player will most likely attain allows for Colt to never want for the currency, making it rather easy to have the loadout of a gamer's dream no matter the circumstances. As noted, there are 4 time frames associated with the 4 maps available. Depending on the time frame will mean both a different look for each map and how the enemies are scattered, as well as certain blockades and openings. For example, the Up Dam map is pretty much enemy free in the morning, but full of dangerous foes at night to correlate with a party happening at the mansion that is completely shut off from entering during the other times of the day. Deathloop doesn't have a difficulty setting, sporting an adaptive difficulty option where enemies become more heavily armed when Colt kills the Visionaries associated with said map and time frame multiple times. Though the Eternalists have better weapons, they pretty much act the same from beginning to end in terms of intelligence, being easy fodder for stealth takedowns and quickly forgetting Colt's routes when chasing him. This also applies to the Visionaries. Really, the only thing that makes Eternalists more difficult later in the game is their apparent super hearing and ability to see through walls when Colt is sneaking around both visibly and invisibly. Really, the only difficult enemy is Juliana herself. Through an invasion system, players can take on other gamers who control Juliana, while players can turn off human-controlled Julianas coming into their sessions. Blake will still invade a map even when the player is in single-player mode in her effort to hunt Colt down. Both the human-controlled and AI-handled Juliana sport slabs and trinkets, just like Colt, with the latter randomizing depending on the scenario. A majority of the time, AI Julianas are a nuisance that are easily swatted away if the player can spot them, and rush her with machete strikes, sneak up on her while invisible, or snipe her while she nonchalantly moves across a rooftop. It doesn't take long for players to have the ability to play as Juliana herself in the Protect the Loop mode. Invading someone else's game as Juliana unveils her unique slab to transform into another Eternalist, a method that usually doesn't help as a player will most absurdly act like no other Eternalist on the map, making the player an easy and obvious target. Player-controlled Julianas level up thanks to experience points attained after completing certain challenges during an invasion, such as lasting 10 minutes or actually killing Colt all 3 times. Leveling up Juliana presents randomized trinkets for herself and her randomly gained weapons, slab upgrades, and even unique costumes for herself and Colt. Unlike Colt, Juliana only has 1 life and no respawns, meaning one wrong move is game over and Protect the Loop. This choice actually adds a great extra layer of tension to a session for a Juliana player. There are technical issues not only for Protect the Loop mode, but the game in general. In regards to the PvP mode, players are slaves to their opponent's internet or even their own connection quality. Due to lacking dedicated servers, this will undoubtedly make for sessions featuring jittery opponents and even moments like the game pulling Juliana backward repeatedly until she is in the line of a turret's fire. Also in regards to Protect the Loop is the long wait times when searching for a session to invade. Depending on what happens after finding a game, Juliana could last only 2 minutes or 20 minutes, with the latter moment happening when it seems the opponent's Colt hasn't spawned or the adversary is away from the controller or camping out until Juliana goes away. While the story is enjoyable for the little bit that is shown, most of the plot being driven by Colt discovering clues as to how to break the loop into certain positions of death. A majority of the lore's information is provided through notes, transcribed communications, through email, and even recorded journals. In truth, the game's plot hinges on the interactions between Colt and Juliana, whose banter goes from playful to vitriolic to downright hilarious depending on the scenario, including Blake sympathizing with a fellow visionary Colt just turned into ash by setting off a believed fake rocket. It's sad the visionaries aren't given more of a showcase, as every major voice actor handles their character masterfully. The great voice acting is helped by a subtle, though stellar soundtrack, including the ear candy that is the menu music. Another issue has to be connected to said notes and informative writings, including codes and pathways for prizes and unlocking certain routes. One key feature that shows up during the game is a delivery booth. The only way to access this booth is by attaining a specific code that is unique to the player's game. No codes for unlocking objects are alike from game to game, just their locations. This delivery booth's code is located on a whiteboard in a part of the Fristad shore map that is only open at noon. A code that's so unremarkably placed, it's incredibly easy to miss. Some of the more straightforward, though unassumingly intricate puzzles lack gratifying rewards. Beyond the previously mentioned technical issues with Protect the Loop mode and poor AI implementation are graphical glitches, including enemies stuck in an animation loop before suddenly collapsing into the world, and even some puzzle pieces or hints not showing up, resulting in a restart to fix said issue. A consistent bug for a lot of people playing on the PS5 have witnessed sees the menu getting stuck between time phases. Another issue is slab upgrades disappearing during a loop. If a player picks up a new slab while automatically exchanging it for the currently equipped slab, the previously equipped slab's upgrades will vanish from Colt's inventory until the player completes an entire loop. This means if the player is taking part in a very specific line of missions and doesn't want to lose progress to regain the infused slab upgrades, they will have to go without until the loop resets. And if the upgrade isn't infused, it is lost until the player gets it again. A terrible implementation for sure. In truth, Deathloop is less a roguelite in nature than it is a different take on the Metroidvania style of games experienced for decades. Thanks to some glaring flaws, including unremarkable rewards for certain puzzles, disappointing AI, a PvP mode that is hindered by potential connectivity issues, and a story and its characters that are more told than shown, Deathloop is in no way a masterpiece. Thankfully, the implementation of slabs, tight gunplay and stealth mechanics, and a lack of forcing the player to wait to become a brutal force on the battlefield makes Deathloop a mostly pleasant experience from start to finish. So similar to Arcane's 7th and 8th generation offerings, gamers will either love Deathloop for its frenetic gameplay, marvelous voice acting, and impressive map designs, or hate it due to the game's lacking narrative presentation, underwhelming reward system during its latter half, and a PvP mode that suffers from no dedicated servers and will most likely wane from players dropping out in a few months. Being a jack of all trades and master of none really does hurt Deathloop's replay value, and the more a player loops, the more it feels like the secrets were better staying hidden. Deathloop is undoubtedly a must-play game thanks to its uniqueness in regards to the environmental presentation and its genre-familiar gameplay. Deathloop's flaws, however, also encourages gamers to wait for a while until the game is on a slight sale, unless someone is desperate for PvP action where you end up getting shot to death by a cult jumping around like the ground is lava, or you're able to chop down an invading Juliana when her player thinks they have you close to failure.
Same time tomorrow, Captain?
Underestimation is the fastest way to annihilation.
Big words for a wee man.
Slightly above average height. Thank you, and I got to your power generators. Booyakasha!
Uh-huh. And?
Now I control the power. You're too damn slow and gain insight.
So fucking cute. You think that you're somehow faster than me? Next time you think you've one-up me, just remember, it's because I let you.
Keep telling yourself that, and I'll be breaking this sooner than you think.
Bring it on. You didn't believe what Igor said about his research?
The vast benefits for all humanity, he's not benefiting anyone out in this place.
And what if you're wrong, and you destroyed the greatest discovery in history?
History's overrated.
Alexis is a complicated individual.
The guy's an asshole.
I know, but you still kind of felt bad killing him, right?
Nope.
Really? You didn't feel anything? I mean, because most sentient beings feel some kind of remorse.
Can I turn this radio off? Or
No.
Seriously, there's no off button?
No, it's a safety